everyone, and welcome to another Monday Night Live. I am Teresa Harper, your independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm located in Sheridan, Oregon in the United States. So tonight we will be using Beauty of Friendship and the coordinating beautiful tree dies. And we will also be using A Good Man. I'm focusing on Father's Day cards. So let's see who's on. All right, hello Laura. I'm gonna wait just a little bit to see who gets in here. How was your Sunday and Monday? Okay. Hello Sharon. Once you're here, go ahead and say hello so I know who's on. And if you haven't already liked my page and followed it, please do so. We'll wait. I see there are 4. I'm not sure. I see comments from 2. We're going to go ahead and wait here and see if anyone else jumps on before we get started here. Okay. All right, I hope everybody had a good week. I was able to meet with some of my girlfriends on Saturday for an in-person stamping event. Hello, Elaine. So happy to have you. How's the weather in Arkansas? It's kind of dreary here in Oregon. It's supposed to be cool and cloudy and with a chance of showers here and there for the rest of the week. Hello, Cynthia. Oh, muggy. Can't say I envy you that weather. Not a fan of muggy. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're using A Good Man and Beauty of Friendship bundle. That includes the stamp set, which is a photopolymer stamp set. And I saw this tip that I thought I'd like to share with you. With these new photopolymer stamp sets, you place your stamps in the case, and then it's incredibly difficult to read your sentiments. So I put my Stamparatus plate over the top of my inside sheet here, laid all my stamps down on it, and then stamped it on a piece of cardstock. It doesn't have to be really good cardstock. Just even a piece of copy paper would work. And then I just cut that and placed it into my stamp case so that I can read my sentiments better. So might be a helpful tip for you. And then we'll also be using A Good Man. This has carried over. I think this is its 2nd or 3rd year. You can find these products. The Beauty of Friendship bundle can be found in the annual catalog on page 11. A Good Man can be found in the annual catalog on page 46. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with our first card. So we're going to start with a card base of Balmy Blue, and this is a standard card base cut at 8.5 by 5.5 and scored in the middle at 4.25. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish that. This will be a portrait mode card. And then we're going to need a piece of the Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper, and this is what it looks like. So you've got, it's a 12 by 12 paper stack. You get 2 each of 6 double-sided designs. So here are the designs. And as you can see, this is on the back of this foliage piece. So we'll be using that. That again is cut 4 by 5.25. And you're going to need a piece of basic white cardstock, and this is cut at 3 3/4 by 5. And that's what we're actually going to stamp on. And you'll need another scrap of Balmy Blue, and this is 1 1/4 inch. And I'm not really, it doesn't, the length just needs to be long. This piece is just under 3 inches. It just needs to be long enough to hold your sentiment and put a banner in the end. And then you're also going to need a piece of basic white that is 1 inch, that is at least as tall as your Balmy Blue piece, because we're going to stamp on that. And then I have a piece of basic white cardstock that is cut at 3 5/8 by 4 7/8 for the inside. All right, so those are our pieces. Let's go ahead and set those aside and get started. I'm going to start by stamping my sentiment, and I'm going to do that in soft suede. And this one comes from A Good Man and says, being a good dad starts with being a good man. Now, if you didn't need Father's Day cards, you could easily turn this into a birthday card with a birthday sentiment. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Before we do that, I'm going to grab my banner Pick-a-Punch, and I'm going to slide this 1 inch piece right into my banner. Pick-a-Punch. I'm going to turn it over, make sure it's centered, and give that a quick punch. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment here. Okay. So we've got that. And we can set that aside. Then we're going to take our 3 3/4 by 5 inch piece of white. And we're going to do our stamping on this. And we're going to take out soft suede ink again. And we're taking, again, the image, the father and child image from this stamp set, A Good Man. And I'm going to go off the bottom here. So I'm going to grab a piece of scratch paper. And the scratch paper that I'm using is a grid sheet from the Stamparatus. It's a small grid sheet. I'm going to put that over here, and I'm going to put it down so that his legs are coming off of the bottom. All right. And then we're going to take the I'm going to let that dry for just a second. And I've already pre-cut a mask. I just used some Post-it paper. Actually, it's not even Post-it brand. It's just some sticky note paper. Okay. Close this up. Then we're going to get out some Old Olive and some garden green. No, Old Olive and Pool Party. That's what we need at the moment. Okay. So we're going to take our Old Olive ink and a blending brush. And I want to put some ground down here. Whoa. And then I'm going to grab Pool Party. I really like Pool Party for the sky. I'm going to take another blending brush. I'm going to wipe off the excess to start. And then I'm just going to put down a real light coat here. I don't want a lot, but I just didn't want it to be stark white. Maybe a little bit more. Notice how I wipe off the paper so I don't get those harsh lines when I set it down. All right, I'm happy with that. So we're going to set that aside. All right, hello Jennifer, and thank you for sharing. Now we're going to take our tree, I'm not sure, the tree trunk with the branches, and we're going to take the soft suede ink again, and I'm going to ink this up. And I'm going to grab my Stampin' Pierce mat because these are photopolymer and I want to ensure that I'm getting a good image. So I'm going to ink this up. And I'm going to put one tree down here like so. And notice how I left that mask on. I don't want to lift that up yet. And then I'm going to put another tree a little bit higher right here. And then I want one more tree slightly higher over here. And that's why I left my mask on. Okay. So I'm going to set aside the soft suede. And now I'm going to move to the Old Olive. And from the Beauty of Friendship stamp set, I'm going to take the more solid tree top. And I'm going to line this up, stamp it down. Notice how you get the two tones in this. This is one of those, I think it's distinctive. I think I forgot to mark it. And I'm just going to put 3 of those tree trunks on there. Okay, now I could stop there, but I want a little more depth in there. So I'm going to take my Granny Apple Green, or not Granny Apple Green, my Garden Green. I'm going to clean off this image. It doesn't have to be perfect. take this garden green, and then I'm going to take the Evening Evergreen Stampin' Up marker. I'm going to take the brush tip and I'm going to lay this down, and I'm just going to thump some extra depth and color into this stamp. And then I'm going to set this back down. Just slightly off. We'll make that tree look a little fuller. And then because I did do the thumping, I need to give that a quick wipe. And I'll repeat that process again. And then one more time. And all this does is give a little bit of added deeper color to give a little bit of extra texture and depth. All right, now my trees are looking pretty good. All right, now I can go ahead and take this off. I'm going to take off my mask. And then I'm going to grab my Stampin' Blends and I'm going to color in my image. Okay, so I'm going to start with a light Daffodil Delight. I'm going to color in this little guy's shirt. Go to the dark Daffodil Delight. Put just a little bit of depth in here where the artist drew the extra lines. And then I'm going to go back over that, little circular motions just to blend those harsh edges. All right. Take a little bit of light crumb cake. I'm going to barely touch the tip to the hair because I want that to be rather light. And then I'm going to color his pants. And I need a little bit of light petal pink for the skin. I'm going to color the face. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Sure are quiet. Not seeing much in the way of comments, so I guess you're all just paying attention. Okay, so I'm going to do Dad's shirt in the light balmy blue. And again, I'm just going to color in the whole shirt with the light. And I am using large oval motions just so everything will blend nicely. And then I'm going to go back with that dark balmy blue. And again, just putting in some depth where the artist left those lines, and then around where there would be a shadow of the little guy sitting on his shoulders. I go back and just blend that in circular motions with the light. Okay. And color his pants in light and dark soft suede. I'm going to start with light soft suede. I'm going to go clear off my cardstock. And go back with the dark and the artist markings. And then blend that all together with the small circular motions to take out those harsh lines until I'm happy with the result. Okay. All right. So there's the front of our card. Now we're going to go ahead and add this to our designer series paper with some Stampin' Seal. Going to add that on there and center that up as best I can. And then I'm going to add this to the front of our card. All right. We're going to take our sentiment. We're going to put it on our balmy blue piece. And I want to put a banner on here, but the punch doesn't actually go wide enough. So I'm going to take my paper snips and I'm going to go in the center. And I'm just going to put a snip. And then I'm going to go from this edge, this corner to that snip. And do the same thing over here. And meet. And then those will match my banner. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add this to my balmy blue. Center that up. Trying to get an even border on 3 sides. Then I'm going to go ahead and trim this off where I want it. Here. Trim both pieces even. And then I'm just going to add this to the top, and I'm going to try and make it even with the top of my card. Okay? And I'm going to leave this flat because I already have a couple of layers of cardstock and it's going on a couple of layers of cardstock, so I feel like I already have plenty of dimension here. Okay. right. There you have the front. Now for the inside of this card, we're going to take that piece of 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. For this, I have a Happy Father's Day from an old paper pumpkin kit. So I'm going to use that because I didn't have anything else. And it's always good to show that if you subscribe to Paper Pumpkin, that you can continue to use those stamps and get your money worth. So we're going to go ahead and put our Happy Father's Day in soft suede ink right up here. Oh. And then we're going to take the tree branch again, put back another piece of scrap paper. I don't want this tree to be as tall. So I'm just going to put this here like so. I'm going to grab that solid image of the tree again. I'm going to stamp this off because I don't want it to be as dark. And then I'm going to get the Granny Apple Green and the detailed stamp. Or not Granny Apple Green, Garden Green. And I'm going to stamp that over the top. And there you have it. And we can take our Stampin' Seal and add that to the inside of the card. And there you have project number 1. And then for the envelope, I just put a tree down in the corner here. Okay. You can do as little or as much as you want on that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this here while I clean up a few things so that we can get on to the next. And I won't put my hands in. And we're going to need these trees again. So use that. Oh, you know what I forgot to put on, you guys? I forgot to put my ground for my trees. Let me go and add that real quick. In crumb cake. Stamp that off. And this also comes from the beauty of the Beautiful Friendship. I need to put my little mask back on here because I forgot that step. And I don't want ground on his arm. So there we go. Now it looks more finished. All right, we're going to need those again. Set this aside. Done with that. Okay. Here we go. For our second card, we're going to start with a card base in soft suede. And we've got a piece of basic white that is 4 by 5 1/4. And you're going to need that inside piece that is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And then I took a piece of the Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper. I used this piece, and with the Beautiful Trees dies, I cut the detailed tree, this detailed tree, from a piece of that DSP that has all the trees, and this is what I got. And I also used the outline for that tree, and I cut it out of the more watercolor washed look green to put behind it. Okay, so we've got that piece right here. I've pre-cut those to save some time. And then you're going to need a piece of basic white, just a scrap. We're going to cut some birds, and then we have a small piece for a sentiment. Okay. So let's start with our stamping. Because then we can do our cutting. So we're going to take the sentiment Relax Your Way, and this is from the A Good Man. Close this green up. We're going to use the soft sweet ink, and we're going to stamp this right down here. Okay, now we're going to cut that out with a die, so you don't have to worry about whether you got it exactly straight or centered, or as long as you can get your die in there, you're good to go. Okay, so we've got that piece, and we need to cut our birds still. So let's go ahead and grab the mini cut and emboss machine. We're going to be using the dies from, let me grab those plates. We're going to be using, there's a little die that has 2 birds. We're going to cut that out with the white there. And then we're going to use the label piece, which will cut and emboss for the sentiment. Okay, so I'm gonna run these through at the same time. So I'm gonna set this aside for just a second while I get this set up, so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna take and just put this down, center that up. And then I'm going to grab a piece of Post-it tape. Oh, I need to go this way. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to put my Post-it tape on. And then I'm going to put my birds. And so I've got plate 1, plate 2, my dies and paper, and then I'm going to stagger the other plate 2. And we're going to put that in here, and we'll roll this through. Oh, thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jennifer. So glad you guys liked that last card. Cynthia, thank you. Sharon. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys are loving that. And easily change, like I said, to a birthday card. Retirement card even, for that matter. This one that I'm doing right now. This would make a perfect retirement card. Okay, so while I still have this one in my die, I'm going to move these out of my way. And I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. And I'm going to use the stylus, the small stylus end. And I'm going to run that around the inside edge of that die, which is already embossed some, but I like a deeper embossing, so I'm just going to reinforce that. And then I don't know if you can see that or not, but that just gives it a little extra wow factor. All right, so that piece is ready. We'll set that aside. Put our bird dies away. And now we have our little birds. So we're going to put these on a piece of scratch paper. Turn that over. Maybe it's not so bad on the other side. All right, so I'm going to take some Stampin' Blends here. And I'm going to start with the light Calypso Coral. I'm going to give these birds a little bit of character. So I'm going to color a little bit of light Calypso Coral around the belly. Here. And here. And I'm actually coloring along the edge. Okay. I'm going to take my, I need the light balmy blue, which for some reason I don't have out here, I think. The Misty Moonlight, hang on. Where is my light balmy blue? In the way, no, that's Seaside Spray. Maybe it's in the other, yep, it's in the other. That's right, I used it on the last card, didn't I? All right, so I'm gonna take my light balmy blue and I'm gonna color the wing. Just gonna give that a little bit of depth here in the wing. And then I'm going to take a light crumb cake and color in the tail feathers and along the top of my bird and my bird's head. And I'm going to swirl that around a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to go back with my color lifter. And I'm going to blend that all together, and I'm going to lighten up that Calypso Coral a bit. And that balmy blue. I'll swirl those together where they meet. Okay, so there we have one bird. And then just a bit. I'm going to do the second bird the same way. Okay. Swirling those together where they meet so the lines aren't so harsh. Okay. And then I'm going to take my black Stampin' Right marker, the basic black. I'm going to take the pen tip and I'm going to just dot in a little eye. And that makes the whole thing pop. Okay, so we can set those aside. So those are ready for assembly. And then we can get started on the actual card front. So again, we're going to do some blending, but we're going to stamp our image first, and I'm doing that in, again, I'm going to go ahead and do that in soft suede again. I did my sample card in Memento, but I think I really like the soft suede blending in with this, so we're going to go with that. Okay, so we've got him. And we're going to get a mask for him. That way he stays nice and crisp while we're doing our ink blending. Okay, I'm going to move these pieces out of the way for the moment. Okay. So we're going to take the garden green, in this case, and I'm going to just rub off some of my old olive, scratch paper, and a microfiber cloth. Get most of that old olive off. I wanted this to be a little bit brighter. Okay. And I'm going to take my garden green, rub off, and very lightly. I'm not putting a lot of pressure. Swirl that around. All right. So I'm happy with that color. I'm going to take the whole party again. I really like it when you do these types of scenery type cards, when you don't end up with the stark white background. Give it a little sky, a little round. Okay. So now we've got our sky in there. And we can... Oh, you know what I forgot to cut, you guys? I forgot to cut the tree trunk. Let me do that. I'm going to grab a piece of soft suede. I'm not sure how I forgot to cut the tree, but I did. So again, this set actually says that it's compatible with the mini cut and emboss, so all of these images will fit. I just need to cut my paper down to 3.5. That's the biggest size paper that you can put through the machine. And then we'll get that tree trunk, put it on our paper, and roll this on through. All right. Whoops, sorry. I knocked you, shook you up. Okay. Now we'll just pop this right out of here. And you can see how easily that cuts. These little branches like to grab onto each other. Just be gentle so you don't tear them as you're bringing them out. Okay, so everything is well cut there. All right, I think we have all of our pieces now. Now we just need to start assembling. So let's start with our card base. And we'll take our bone folder to give that a nice crisp crease. Looks like I moved my reference here. All right. Then we're going to add, oh, wait a minute, before we add, I guess we probably better color before we add in. And this image I find to be a little bit tricky. And I'm going to give you a little tip on this. Image was incredibly difficult to cut the air, so I just cut it in a basic shape, and then I'll show you how I'm going to fix the weight areas. Okay, so let's start with his shirt. We're going to do that in soft succulent. I'm going to start with the light soft succulent. This image can be just a little bit tricky to color. I'm going to switch this over to the brush tip and fill it in a little faster. Okay. And I'm going to go back like I did before. And really all I'm doing is scribbling. And then I'll just blend it out. Okay. All right. And again, we need those soft suede for the pants. This time he's got on shorts, so not much there. And I'm not even going to blend this. I'm just going to use just the light soft suede. Actually, I used the dark crumb cake, so that's all right too. I'm going to go ahead then and do his hat. I'm going to make his hat match, so we're going to do a light crumb cake. And we'll go back and put in just a little bit of depth with the dark and blend that out. And again with the light petal pink. Now you could use the ivory blend if you had it. I kind of like the skin tone I get with the petal pink. And if that's a little too pink for you, or a little too dark, you can always take your color lifter and lighten it up a little. I guess we should put his neck in there. Okay. Now, we're going to take the light crumb cake here, and we're going to color this outside edge of our chair. And this little area here. And then we're going to go in here and there. All right. Then I'm going to take the light misty moonlight. And I'm going to fill in these extra little bits of stripe. Just like that. Okay, so now this area here that you can see should actually be the grass. So I'm going to go in. We don't have a garden green marker, so I'm going to go in with my old olive and I'm going to make that real light, barely touching the tip to the paper. And then I'm going to take my color lifter and I'm going to blend that out. And lighten that up. Okay. All right. So now we can add this to our card. And I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal for that. I'm going to put that on the front here and center it up. Okay. And then I'm going to take my tree trunk. I'm going to set it up here like this. And because I know that this is going to cover that up, okay, I'll try to move this over just a little bit more like that, perhaps. Audition it out. Yep, that's about what I want right there. Okay, so then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to put some Stampin' Seal here. And then I'm going to take a little bit of liquid glue on my trunk here. Oh, wow, I got carried away there. Fortunately, most of that, even if it oozes out, won't matter. So we're going to go ahead and put this down again. About right here. Stick that into that tape. Ugh, I got it sticky. I moved it too much. All right. And then we're going to take this and we're going to use Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm going to put this down. We don't want it saggy middles, so we're gonna do this. And I'm gonna go ahead and move this down. All right. We're gonna put this like so. And then I'm going to take some liquid glue on the back of the detailed piece. And there's some pretty good sized areas, so I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue in those larger areas. Now you could cut this with adhesive sheet and then slap it down like a sticker, but I didn't find this to be too big of a deal. As long as you don't squeeze your glue too hard. You should be fine. You don't have to get every little piece. Okay. Then we're going to take and line this up on our tree. Give that a little bit of a press. Now we're going to grab our birds, bring those back in, and our sentiment. And we're going to take glue dots for our birds because that's the easiest. And we'll pick up our bird and put it on a glue dot right there on its belly. And I'll pick that up, and I'm going to put one bird right here and another bird over here. And then we're going to take the Relax Your Way, and again we're going to use glue dots because I have a little bit of an indentation there. So I'm going to stick the glue dots because they will give it just a little bit of pop and bring that up to meet. That center. And then we'll take this and we're just going to put it right here on our tree. Okay. And then, like I said with this one, I'm not going to go ahead and put a Father's Day sentiment in here because I don't really need another Father's Day sentiment. So I'm going to take this card and I'm going to get my inside piece. And again, I'm going to stamp those trees. But I think I'm going to switch up the trees. So I'm going to give these a quick clean so I can, actually, I'll just set them aside. Give me another block here. Set that aside, and what did I do with the other one? Buried it. Okay, so now I've got my two blocks. And I'm going to take these two images. I'm going to set that down, pick it up. And this is the solid image, so I'm going to take that old olive. And on this one, I'm just going to stamp, oh, I hit you again. Just going to stamp it off. Let me get my tree trunk down first. That would be the smart thing to do. Might need that tree trunk. Kind of an important piece, don't you think? Oh, thanks, Sharon. I'm glad you love those birds in the trees. Okay, so we're going to put down our tree trunk. And then we've got our old olive. Okay. And then I'm going to take the more detailed, and again, I'm inking in old olive, and I'm just going to go right over the top. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and leave this one blank because I could use this for, like I said, a retirement card if I need it. I can use it for a birthday card, a just because card, a thank you card. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Oh, and I need to grab the envelope. Let me grab that envelope out of the packet here. Which I can't find what I did with the packet. My packet of pieces. Okay, so I'm going to take and do this one more time for my envelope. So I'm going to take my envelope and that soft suede ink. And really, if you knew what you were going to do ahead of a time, then you could just stamp it at the same time you stamp your inside, which is what I should have done, but didn't. Okay, so I'm going to take that old olive, stamp off. Actually, I do this one full strength. And then I'm going to get the detailed one. And I'm going to wipe off all the ink. And then I'm going to get garden green. And with the detailed stamp, I'm going to go over the top. So, there we have it. Now let's take some Stampin' Seal. For the insides of my cards, okay. Why are you being a turkey here? Just roll on up. I'm almost at the very, very end of this roll. I can see the red. And I just put this in here. All right. And there's our second project. So for tonight we made this one. And this one. All right. So there we are. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, hello, Mary. Welcome. So glad you could join us. Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. I'm so glad you love them. It makes my heart happy. I hope that if you haven't already made your Father's Day cards, this gives you a little bit of inspiration. Or if you need a masculine birthday card or something. Oh, thanks, Sharon. All right, let me go back and see if I missed any important questions. All right. Yay. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you again for joining me. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. If, as a reminder, Sharon has that workshop open, so if you need the host code for Sharon's workshop, there's her host code. It is RRATA447, and we'd like to get that closed out in the next couple of days for those of you who participated in that workshop Saturday. All right. So I will see you again all next Monday, barring any catastrophes. And we'll do a couple more projects with another bundle. All right. Oh, do you? Yes, Elaine, I do hand cut my mask. I will show you how I hand cut my mask, in fact, because hand cutting of masks can be rather tricky. So let me grab, I'm just going to grab the stamp real quick. I've got this one right here, and this will work. Get my ink. Now, I would do a Post-it note or masking paper and make sure that the sticky's at the top. And then I just stamped this. And when you're hand cutting a mask, one of the most important things that you need to know is that you should cut, these ones have fairly thick lines, so you should cut inside the thick line. And that way, when you go to stamp over or ink blend, then you won't leave that white halo that you can get if you don't. So you want to make sure that you cut out and get all the excess off. That makes cutting much easier. So you want to cut and make sure that you leave a thinner line. With this one being quite so thick, you can cut to the inside of that thick line, and then you won't end up with that halo effect. But that's how I do mine. And that way when I still have my line, especially on these thick ones, but if you're cutting one that doesn't have a thick line, then stay as far to the inside as you can. Like I say, because you don't want that white halo. So it doesn't take much. And you can even take a regular piece of, this is just a regular piece of, this is a Post-it at the top, but I had instructions at the top that I didn't want to cut off. But in case you don't have Post-it handy, you can use a thin piece of copy paper, any thin piece, and then you can take your Tombow and give a little swipe on the back like that. Set that aside and let it dry, and then it becomes like a Post-it note. But you need to completely let it dry. It should be clear when you go to use it for the Post-it part. But this will turn into a good mask, even with this, because this is a real thin paper, but it will turn into a good mask. So that's a good way to do up your mask. All right? Oh, you're more than welcome. That is it's kind of it's a good thing to know, because I do a lot of masking, especially with the blending brushes. So, like I say, with that Tombow adhesive, just let it dry, and that becomes a sticky note is what it becomes. So, are there any more questions that I can help with? I'll give you just a minute to type in and have it come across. And if I don't see any, then I will go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you again on Monday for another Monday Night Live. And we'll use a different set. Does anybody have, if anybody has any suggestions for a bundle that they'd like to see that I might have, I would more than welcome that. So just put it in the comments and I'll be sure to check it out. All right? Okay, everybody. Good night.